Gavin Williams had one hell of a breakout season in 2025. I got some questions regarding whether he can repeat it in 2026. You'll find out that and more in today's action-packed episode of Locked On Fantasy Baseball.
You are Locked On Fantasy Baseball, your daily fantasy baseball podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, fantasy baseball fanatics, and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast, brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, we're your number one source for fantasy baseball knowledge, and thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. I'm your host, Matthew Wane. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that bell below to subscribe to the channel and give you a notification every time we drop a new episode. And if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you're getting that audio source, make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star rating and review. It really helps out the show. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $5, and if you win, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Now let's get into it. Look, I got a good episode for you. A lot of question marks surrounding players on this team, and a lot of stuff I just kind of want to give some, pats on the backs for too. And we'll start off with Jose Ramirez, who has been an absolute stud. Quite honestly, he's been so good this year. I'm actually really impressed. Um, ultimately, like you look at everything he did, there we go, and you're just like, wow, I'm actually pleasantly, what's the word I'm looking for? Happy with his performance, and let's get into that. So this year, my man finished with, at age 32, 593 at bats, 103 runs, 34 doubles, 3 triples, 30 bombs, 85 ribs, 44 stolen bases, and a lovely 283 batting average. Absolutely crushing it. Just doing the Ramirez thing. Now, yeah, we saw a dip in the power, but whatever. I'll still take a 30-44 season any day of the week. That's incredible. Look, he's still a first round talent. Top 5, 6, 7th pick. I'm not mad at it. Third baseman, why wouldn't I want a piece of that pie? Jose Ramirez is an amazing player that I don't think you need to spend too much time talking about because you just know you're going to get. Everything supports what he's doing right now, and I don't see any sign of negative regression. You know, yeah, the quality contact has gone down to 7% from last year's uh, last 8.6, down about a 1.5%, but still, it's not like super alarming, and that could just be an adjust and a swing, and we're back at it, making quality, even better quality contact. Hard contact percentage, now that really hasn't changed much. That's at 37%, whereas in the previous year was at 39, so dropped only 2%. And that's not too concerning either. So, like, ultimately, like, he has made good strides too, walked more, struck out less, you know, chased about the same, bat speed's about the same. Like, there's really nothing that's really screaming, hey, I really am concerned about Jose Ramirez. Everything seems to be at age 33 this season. He's going to be just fine and do what he does. Jose Ramirez is an incredible talent. Draft him with confidence, honestly. I don't think he's a guy I'm avoiding. Let's move on. This guy I always have questions about, and I don't understand why the fantasy community likes him so much. And that's Steven Kwan, outfielder for the Cleveland Guardians. And we need to really talk about him because he's a really good baseball player, right? And I'm not going to disregard that or or even say, hey, you know, he's bad. That's not physically possible. Quan is an amazing baseball player, but what does he do for your fantasy team? And how is he going to help you win each and every week? Well, that's the question you got to ask yourself ultimately. And the answer is he doesn't. And when it comes to fantasy baseball, he doesn't. He's a great real baseball player. He doesn't have an outstanding stat that he truly contributes in and week out. And, that's his staple. A lot of people thought that he'd be like a 2020 guy. Well, he's never really touched it. He's barely scraped even 14 home runs. 14 home runs is his career high in 2024. He had 11 this year, and he only managed to get about 21 stolen bases, which tied his career high in 2023. Now, yes, he's 27 years old, but I think the story has been written on the young man. And quite honestly, I don't think he's valuable for fantasy. He's not crushing. He's not getting the 20 home runs. And you know what? He's not driving in runs either. The ribbies are only at 56, 44, 54, 52. Like, there's nothing special about it. He's not getting driven in over 100 times either. Doubles are nice in points leagues along with triples and such. But, in head to head roto, like, hey, he's all right. He's okay. A good streamer. Sorry, I'm still jet lagged from coming back from Sweden. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, you know, Kwan is a really good baseball player, but when it comes to fantasy, he doesn't do enough for us. And I can catch all the flack I want. I don't really care. Tell me when if he was being drafted in the top 100, there wouldn't be 40 guys you wouldn't draft ahead of him, and there wouldn't be 40 guys draft below him that you'd prefer over him. Like Quan is just not a guy that I'm truly going to consider having on my team in a deeper league. Sure, 15-man league, four outfield, two UTs league. Yeah, maybe he then becomes in the mix, but I don't think he's just a great talent in general and for fantasy baseball. So therefore, I'm going to avoid him like the plague. I don't think Steven Kwan is going to provide too much fantasy value in 2026. So I'm just ready to move on from him. Now let's talk about another bat. There's not many bats on the Kyle Manzardo. He's an inch 2026, and I'll tell you why. Kyle Manzardo had a great season in a lot of ways. So obviously, power was the biggest key contributor. He had 27 home runs this year through 470 at bats. He had 47 runs, 19 doubles, two triples, 70 ribs, and batted 234. So look, I look at it like this: the batting average doesn't need to be there if he's going to crush the ball. Now we want to see that hit mid 30s to almost 40 for the batting average to really could be superb. He also needs to be driven in more as well to be really fantasy value. Now, the thing is, I'm totally on board with grabbing him with one of my last picks and seeing where the journey takes us. He has for first base designation, and quite honestly, he could be a serious upside play and a sleeper this year. In all honesty, I think that he's actually a guy I'm going to be targeting. He hits the ball hard. He has great barrel percentage at 11.8%, which is great contact in general. Follows that up with hard hit percentage of 43.8% of the time. Gets it up like 1.5, and he's in an elite category. So I think that can be on the rise. You know, he's doing everything he can in those regards to just make quality contact. The guy just loves to swing at literally everything and whiff, and doesn't walk enough for me to really say he's good at that. He still walks 9% of the time, which is really bad, and strikes out 25.4%. So the batting average, I don't think is ever going to be there. But if the power can get a surge, he hits 35 to 40 home runs next year and gets you like 80 and 80, you're a happy person. So therefore, I'm going to try and just swing for the fences with his upside and try and get him on my team and add him in the draft. And Kyle Manzardo could pose that kind of sleeper effect that could be a game changer for your team in fantasy. So I'm specifically targeting him in any league out there except for maybe points, because that's where he'll mutilate you. He strikes out way too much. He doesn't walk enough to compensate for it. So therefore, you're going to end up paying a price for him and have a negative input from him instead of a positive one like you would have in a roto or head-to-head roto kind of league where, you know, he could poorly perform in batting average, but it's not going to directly correlate to the total victory of the stat because there's too many guys out there that are doing much better than him. Oh, sorry, guys. Please excuse me. I am so jet lagged. But coming up next, we're gonna start going over some pitching. I'm gonna be talking about Gavin Williams and his breakout season, Tanner Bibee, and is he completely washed, and others coming up right after this. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss an opportunity, don't miss any excitement for the sports season. Whether you're following NFL or NBA or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on two player stat projections. If you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere. Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. I've been playing Prize Picks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-off. It keeps every game exciting. I like picking my favorite players such as Mahomes and Steph Curry to see how my predictions play out. The new stack feature is a game changer. You can now pick more or less than Steph Curry's points, threes, and assists, and it's in the same lineup, and it's wonderful. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves my lineup from a loss. Download the PrizePick app today. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That code is LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. So let's get back into it. Like I promised, Gavin Williams had a monster season in 2025. Legit crushed it after, some ups and downs over the last couple of years. So 167 innings pitched, 173 strikeouts, a 3.06 ERA with a 1.27 whip. The whip is on the serious high side, definitely over the K per inning. And the ERA was amazing this year. But there's some red flags I have when it comes to Gavin Williams in 2026, and I'm going to go over those in a minute. You know, you look at a couple things that say, is this sustainable? Is it, what are we doing here that's going to say, hey, he's successful at the mound and he can repeat it year in and year out? Well, those are the things that are screaming at me, say no. First off is fifth, is field and independent pitching stat, which is, if you had an average defense behind you, what would be your ERA? Well, it's at a 4.39. Then we look at the ERA for his expected ERA. That's a 4.24. Both are leaning at a whole run higher, which a whole run and a half higher. And that's not good. Usually you want them like a half run difference. And that's where you're like, okay, cool. You know what? The negative regression isn't bad. It's also he can do a little bit better too than that. But no, not this bad. This is saying he's getting super lucky. On top of that, you know, he doesn't get guys to really like chase as often as you like, which even though he's producing Ks at 24.6% and getting guys to whiff 27.7%, he should have if he had a better chase rate, he would have a lot more strikeouts than just, simply five more, which you could totally see negative regression where he finishes under a K per inning. And then that hurts your ratios too. Now, the other thing is he allows a lot of quality contact. He allows guys to barrel 9% of the time against him, which if he was a hitter and said, "Oh, you got a 9 barrel percentage," that's a great stat for the hitter. It's a really bad stat for when a pitcher's out there. On top of that, he only walks about 11% of the time. He walks guys 11% of the time, which is not good either. So, you know, that's why the whip was so high. You mix that in with, the fact that he gives up hard contact at a stellar rate and he allows quality contact at an insane rate. It's not going to make up for anything. He's going to get self trouble. So, like, I just look at it and I go, I don't think this is actually repeatable. Think if anything, if he hits top 36 pitcher, he's going to be a bust for me in 2026 because I just am not seeing it no matter what. Even with the ground ball production he's doing, still not enough. He still can give up home runs. He still can give up quality contact, which means, hey, the ball is going to drop. And then that leads to more runs, inflated ERA, and more in the realm of a FIP and an expected ERA. And therefore, I don't want to touch him with a 10-foot pole at this point. Gavin Williams seems like more of a trap than anything else. So I'm not really on board for him. But let's move on. So about Tanner Bibee, probably the player that I'm disappointed the most in 2026. Guy that I truly had, ranked as a top 24 pitcher. Guy I thought was going to take the step forward finally, and unfortunately, here we are again. Not the greatest. 108, excuse me. 182 innings pitched, 162 strikeouts. Not bad, but a 4.24 ERA with a 1.22 whip. And the FIP matches the ERA. It's not good. Then we look under the hood and straight up, it's not as bad, gives you hope. But, you got to see it now. The expected ERA should actually be a 3.66. I would have took that this year wholeheartedly. His fastball's at 94.3 miles per hour. Let's look at it where it was in 2024. It's about the same, so it hasn't taken a dip, which is good. Not giving a real hard contact off of it at 88.5% miles per hour. The reason why he doesn't get a lot of strikeouts is he doesn't get guys to chase enough, doesn't create the whiff enough. So here we are at a 21.3 strikeout percentage. But even though you saw the higher whip this season, he actually only walks guys 7.1%, which tells you there's positive regression coming in the whip. And with the high walk rate, the low walk rate, it means more ability to then create strikeouts. Now, the barrel percentage is concerning, hence why I think we saw an inflated ERA, which I think there's some positive regression to bring that down. It's at 8%. I think you can get it down to probably 6.5%, and make things a hell of a lot easier for you. So I'm definitely willing to take another shot, but not as a top 30 pitcher. Tell me he's my SP4, SP5. I think 5 after this last year. I think that there's going to be some built-in excitement, but I think positive regression is on the horizon for him, and it's not going to take much. Truthfully, keep the ERA down, match that expected ERA, do what you got to do, and we're going to get it done. Fastball is just flat this year too, which is another issue for Tanner Bibee. So ultimately, like there is a path for him to have positive regression. Still not out 100%, but I am hesitant, and again, I won't pay a certain price for him. So is what it is. So we're up Parker Messick. We've talked about him on this show a few times as a pickup, but I feel like he's relevant for 2026. Not super relevant where, hey, you're going to go and spend a high pick on him. No, it's going to be one of those guys that's going to be at the end of your bench that, if he has a bad start, then you drop him. But I don't think it's going to be. He was very good when he got the call. I'm so sorry. He pitched 39.2% innings, 38 strikeouts, a 2.72 ERA with a 2.98 FIP. Looked phenomenal, and the whip was a 1.31. Now, that was a little high. Everything under the hood says, things are repeatable in the small sample size we got. The expected ERA was actually at 3.12, which really isn't that much different. The average exit velocity, 88.1. Gets guys to chase 27.5% of the time, creates a whiff 26% of the time, and gets the guys to strike out 23% of the time. What does that tell you? Why did I read off all these stats? Well, walk-in strikeouts are a big factor of, how a player is going to be successful on the mound for the ERA. Walks guys only 3.5% of the time, mixed with a 23% strikeout rate. Perfect. The strikeouts are backed up because, he gets guys to chase 27.5. I'd love to see that inch up a little bit more, but it's still not bad. Gets guys to whiff 26% of the time. Love to see that crank up a little bit more. But hey, he's at a K per inning right now, but right under it. I'm good with this. On top of that, he produces ground balls 48.8% of the time in a short stint, only allowed hard contact 29.8% of the time, and guys only barreled against him 5.8%. So he's doing all the right things, getting the ground balls for easy outs, suppressing quality contact, and when they make contact, it's not that hard, which is elite. Now, can he sustain this first full season? TBD, but I'm excited to see it. He's a guy I'm going to be targeting in drafts because I think he's going to be another sleeper for me. So Parker Messick is a guy I'm going to be targeting in drafts right now. But coming up, I got some prospects that we talk about that could be relevant in the break camp this year. All coming up after this. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making you're making sure you're ready for kickoff with can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I like to bet. Player props, building the same game parlay, or even jumping in on the action as it unfolds. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or just keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little bit more energy to your Sundays. So you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app today by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Place your first $5 bet. So like I promised, we got two prospects that I think we need to talk about. Chase DeLauter is one of them. Chase DeLauter, fantastic prospect in general. He's a guy that I've always been a fan of. He just, has dealt with a couple injuries and things like that I feel have held him back and have dropped him. At one point a couple of years ago, he was a top, I would say 10 prospect, and now kind of has fallen off the wagon a little bit, fallen away all the way down to 58. Injury just constantly in front, ruining his career. But DeLauter's a good prospect that I feel we need to talk about. All right. He's a good hitting prospect, plays center field and right field and left field. And this past season, Emperor's got his groove back. Let's put it that way. 148 at bats, 28 runs, 8 doubles, a triple, 7 bombs, 24 ribs. Stolen base, batted 264. Looked fantastic all season long. Finally kind of figured it out after coming back from injury and all that stuff. Dude is a problem in terms of power, can hit for average. And with this team, if he does break camp next year, he's a guy I'm going to try and add. He does come with some injury risks and things like that because he's never been a picture of health, unfortunately. But I think he's somebody that I want to target. Just for your information, too, under the hood of how Fangraphs kind of grades him as a prospect: 40 out of 60 game power, 55 out of 60 raw power, speed 45 out of 40, and he's a great fielder. You know, he's dealt with a bunch of foot injuries that I feel like really has derailed his career, like I was saying. Him going to this year, if he can break camp, show off that power, show off that speed, even though we really haven't seen stolen base numbers in his career in the minors, there might be a level for it, even if he chips in 10 to 15. But the power is really there, and that's the key part. That lineup with him, as long as he doesn't really, as long as he bets 250, I think makes good contact with the ball, he's going to do his job. He's going to be a valuable asset. So I'm going to be targeting him if he does break camp. And if not, he's going to be on a watch list because I'm going to want a piece of this. Because Chase DeLauter could be a difference maker for your team in 2026. That might be unforeseen for a lot of players. Let's move on. So about Travis Bazzana. I want to call him sorry. Bonanza, because the dude is just a really good prospect. Didn't have such a great year in the minors, but still, he's a guy I definitely am a fan of. So Bonzana, I think, just had a little rough go at minor leagues for his first lick. He had 302 at bats, 71 runs, 17 doubles, 5 triples, 9 bombs, 39 ribs, 12 stolen bases, batted 245. Now, 9 home runs aren't atrocious, but based off of like what he was expected to be, you would expect more home runs in that period of time. You would also expect, you know, better batting average too, because he was kind of known for having good plate discipline and making good decisions at the plate. That's a little bit down, but the stolen bases is definitely in a realm of possibilities, showing that off, which usually prospects do. I just want to like kind of gauge who he is and what I'm expecting. I don't think he's going to get the call and break camp this year unless the team is just like, well, we got to see what we have. But he's probably going to be a mid-year kind of type deal. He's a guy I'm going to be paying attention to, not drafting. He has a hit tool 40 out of 50, game power 40 out of 55, raw power 50 out of 55, and the speed is at lights out. You know, he is definitely a guy that is going to come up at some point next year, but I just don't think he's going to be breaking camp unless he, just thrusts himself into the lineup, which could happen. I mean, anybody can do that. He's going to be invited to spring training and get evaluated to see if he can break camp. We shall see. I love him. If he gets the call, I want him. But guys, please like, subscribe, comment, rate, review, do everything you can to share the show because we truly love bringing it to you each and every day. And thank you for making Locked On Fantasy Baseball your first listen each and every day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night, all season long. Get your local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB or wherever you listen to your podcast. Peace out, guys.